Hi, it's Dr. Steve from Misericordia University, and welcome to Flipping the Classroom. In this video, let's consider what does flipping the classroom mean, and then when we consider that you have a lot of extra time in your actual class time, in your face-to-face time, let's consider how can you use your class time in the flipped model. And then let's wrap up by considering our educational activities for this week's class. Let's begin by considering what does flipping the classroom really mean and where did it come from? The idea of flipping the classroom was a discovery. It kind of happened by accident. The story begins in 2006 with two chemistry teachers named Sams and Jonathan Bergmann. They were teaching in Woodland Park High School in Colorado. It was a rural school, and they found that students were missing time because it was a rural school away from other locations. There were a lot of long travel times. So students who were traveling to extracurricular activities, sporting events, and so on, they were missing a lot of time from their class. And they noticed that they're spending a lot of time trying to help those students catch up on material they missed. So they started experimenting with different software. They were working with PowerPoint, with voiceover, with narration, and then they would convert that to video. They were working with screen capture software. They were also starting to experiment with YouTube that in 2006 was in its infancy. So they would post videos created with software, and they would post it online to be accessible by all students. And then the unexpected happened. Bergmann and Sams discovered that students were enjoying and they were all benefiting from the videos. And then they also found out, because they were posting their videos online, that teachers and students from around the world started tapping into their videos. And the students were using the videos to better understand chemistry. Teachers were using the videos for substitute teachers when they would come in. And some new teachers were using the videos to really understand the content better. In all of this, Bergmann and Sams realized that their students really needed them as teachers when they got stuck applying concepts. They didn't need them for listening to lecture. And they further realized that their students can receive the content on their own without the physical presence of a teacher in a classroom. In other words, they realized they were wasting class time with lecture. These chemistry teachers were on a block schedule. They had 95-minute classes every other day. So they started assigning students a video of their lecture to watch every other night. And then in class, they would just run their regular lab experiments as they used to in the past. But they discovered they had lots of extra free time because in a 95-minute period, the students completed the lab activities as usual in about 20 minutes. They ran out of activities for the students to do. From their experiments and their activities, Bergmann and Sams realized that the flipping model was more effective than lecturing and assigning homework, the traditional thing that most teachers would do. They also found that students were performing better on tests than with the traditional model. They were acquiring more of the content more effectively. And in the process, because they had so much extra time in the classroom, that allowed these teachers to personalize the educational experience for students. And they discovered further that if they had built up a library of videos, that even students who would enter the school year late could work at their own pace, and they could still catch up to the other classmates. So this led them to another discovery, something that they termed the mastery flipped classroom concept. By definition, according to the Flipped Learning Network, flipped learning is a pedagogical approach in which teachers take the direct instruction from the group learning space in the classroom and they move it to the individual learning space at home. And the resulting group space is a dynamic, interactive learning environment where the teachers help to guide and be true guides on the side to students as they apply concepts and they're engaging creatively directly with the subject matter. So in short, at least on the surface, flipping involves taking the direct instruction out of the classroom via technology and give that for homework. And that leaves time for hands-on engagement during the regular class time. But if you consider flipping at a more deep level, you quickly realize that it really represents a whole new paradigm of teaching because the roles of the teacher and the student change. The nature of homework is now all different. What happens in the classroom is completely different, and demonstration and assessment now can change as well. My personal suggestion is to realize for your classroom, flipping does not have to be an all or nothing choice. As you can see from everything we've said so far and what you might already have known, flipping involves having a large video library. How do you break into it? Well, maybe it's not, I'm going to flip this semester, this academic year, but rather, maybe you can flip certain topics because that will benefit the class, especially when they need to rewind certain parts of that lecture to understand it better. Maybe in certain instances, like times of inclement weather or when a faculty member is ill or has to take a leave, maybe you can use it as a prelude to learning, or you could use it to review after learning has taken place. Those might all be good ways to start breaking into flipping. So how does a flipped classroom look? Bergmann and Sams suggest, as you start to flip your class, to spend some time teaching the students how to watch videos and how to effectively take notes. They suggest really focusing on the ability to pause and rewind, and also to even ask or require students to mark down questions and maybe start the in-person class with those questions. And they suggest that if many students come in with the same question, then maybe you can use that information to help you modify the video for the next time. At the face-to-face class, the teacher will then start by answering student questions and will clarify any student misconceptions of the content and then provide different assignments, activities, hands-on things to do during that class. Here we see how the flipped classroom period is drastically different from the traditional classroom period. Bergmann and Sams said they'll do a 5-minute warm-up activity and then spend some time, about 10 minutes or so, on question and answers from the video, and then the rest of the time is independent practice, guided practice, lab activities, hands-on things. 75 minutes. Compare that with the traditional classroom. In the flipped classroom, the teacher's role still remains the same in part. We're still grading, we're still doing labs, we're still conducting assessment, but the teacher's role changes in that the teacher is no longer the sage on the stage for that in-person class. And instead, they take on a tutorial or more of a mentor role, the true guide on the side. And instead of performing, so to speak, the teacher spends time interacting with the students. So the benefit here is the students who need the most help do get it in this model. The students' role changes in that the students are now encouraged to take on more responsibility for their own learning. They have to view the videos. They have to process the content. They have to ask appropriate questions, and they have to make appropriate use of the teacher who is now the resident expert so they can truly understand those concepts. Now let's consider, how can a teacher best use class time in the flipped environment? All teachers always desire to have just a little more time in the classroom. With flipped learning, now you will have that time. Now, what are you going to do with all of this extra time? Ideally, you want to serve as a guide on the side, and allow students to directly engage hands-on with the content. In the revised Bloom's taxonomy, we find that creating is on the highest order of interaction of students with content. Flipping can create more time for students to generate their own content, to create something. For example, they can create video, podcasts, digital stories. They could do blogging. They could engage in shared documents or wikis. They could create their own mobile app. In the flipped classroom, your students will now have time to engage in project-based learning, to engage in exploring real-world problems and working on developing solutions to those situations. And when a need arises to learn and acquire some specific skill to support their efforts, the teacher can provide access to multimedia-based micro lectures versus direct instruction. Or the teacher will be very much free to be able to walk around as guide on the side to mentor these students. In social science, language arts, and humanities classes, you'll have much more time to debate or engage in speeches or mock trials, better discussions. You could have more writing in the class, and you can also have more time to analyze and discuss writing and engage in peer review. In math classes, you have more time to go hands-on with more math manipulatives. You can use various technologies to explore math concepts deeper. And you can also have time to connect with other STEM areas. In the sciences, you'll have more time to engage in inquiry-based activities, and you can conduct more and deeper experiments. In phys ed classes, you'll have more time to teach rules of various games and popular techniques in the games, and then you can even get the students involved in physical activity even earlier in the class and have more time to engage in those activities. And so many other possibilities of things to do hands-on in the classroom. We all as teachers desire more time. Now you could have more time, and oh, all the great things you can do with that time. Now let's wrap up by considering a tour of our educational activities for week 6. Our first activity will be a discussion. Let's engage in a discussion in which we brainstorm different hands-on activities, different engaging activities that we can use with all that extra time in our flipped classroom model. As usual, I've provided some guiding questions to help spark up and aid our discussion. Our second and final activity this week will also be a discussion, but this will be a discussion on 2 videos. To gain a little more perspective on flipping the classroom, let's go back to those 2 gentlemen who started the whole concept, Sams and Jonathan Bergmann. I've provided you with 2 very short videos from each of them, but they'll certainly give you a lot more perspective. So watch those 2 videos, and then let's hold a discussion about the content. As usual, I've provided some guiding questions to help spark and lead our conversation. If you have not already started, it's definitely time to work on the final project. And that will be the development of 2 professional development videos that will describe and demonstrate how teachers can use video in their classrooms. Keep in mind, these will be short videos, as we said, maybe up to 6 minutes or so in length at the upper end of time. Choose from the following possible topics: why a teacher should use video in the classroom, how to use a green screen and apps that are associated, how to create an effective video, how to use any particular technology related to video in the classroom. We've looked at a bunch in our course. How to create a YouTube channel and how to upload your video content. How to flip your classroom. or some other related topic. This video represents the last of the new content for this course. I hope you've enjoyed all the content, and we're so close to the finish line. I look forward to seeing you there.